Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. Today, I'm going to talk about something that's going to make some people mad at me. They're going to get pissed at me. They're going to want to unsubscribe. But I'm asking you, please listen first before you do that. If you want to unsubscribe at the end, do so, but listen first. Because what I got to say, I think, is very important. Now, what's going to piss a lot of people off at me is I'm going to say, if you are a gun person, if you believe in the Second Amendment, you should be opposing these new abortion laws in Texas. Now, this is where people are going to get mad. But don't get mad, because I'm not telling you that you should be pro-choice. In fact, I believe you should be anti-abortion. If you really, like I said, believe that abortion is killing babies, then I would not respect you if you didn't fight against abortion. So I'm not telling you to change your opinions about abortion at all. I'm asking you right now, throw away your identity politics. Turn off that part of your brain that doesn't let you hear anything that's contrary to what you believe if you find it threatening or anything like that. Because the reason I'm saying you should be opposing these laws in Texas is because of the way they are crafted and how they are going to be used against us, believers in the Second Amendment and the Constitution, how they're going to be used against us in the future if they stand. The way Texas got around, the fact that Roe versus Wade determined that abortion is a right of citizens. We may not agree with it, but that's what it says. So the way these laws are getting around that so they can't be declared unconstitutional is they are not giving any power of prosecution to the state, really. They gave the power of prosecution and enforcement to the people. People who get offended or get mad if a doctor does an abortion can use state resources to file a lawsuit against that doctor, basically driving them out of business. And that's how they're stopping abortions right now, by saying if you do one, you're going to get sued into oblivion. And no one wants that. But the courts have said, well, it's going to be tricky to overturn this because the state is holding no means of enforcement on this. It's not them doing it, it's citizens doing it based on their own principles. And it's a very complicated thing, but I kind of just gave you the short gist of it here. Since the state is not the one punishing people, they can't go and say, hey, the state is doing something unconstitutional, denying me my right. The state's not doing that. They're just giving other people the means to harass you into poverty. So this has to go away because this was very short-sighted on the part of the politicians who put this in play. This was a way for them to gain quick points with their base, to maybe win a battle or two, but in the long run, this is going to eat us alive. Because if this is allowed to stand and the Supreme Court goes, well, there's nothing we can do about this because enforcement is not at the state level, it's at the individual level. Well, if there's nothing we can do about that, well, then how long is it going to be before California, New York, New Jersey, and dozens of other states go, well, what we're going to do is write some laws that state if you're offended or afraid because your neighbor owns guns, well, here's a state website you can go to, and using state resources, you can sue them into poverty. And they'll have to defend themselves because they broke the law. So they can't just blow it off, or they'll get arrested and put in jail, have their guns seized. So how long do you think that's going to be? How long do you think it's going to be till New York City says, hey, if you know someone who's got a gun, you can say they're a public nuisance and you can file a lawsuit against them and drag them through court until they got no money. They have to sell that gun to pay their court fees. But since the state's not enforcing it, we're not violating their rights. We're just providing you a way to destroy them, which is basically what the Texas law is. And I know I'm oversimplifying it, but I'm oversimplifying it so people understand it. Now, if Texas wants to pass a law that says you can't do abortions in the state of Texas after 6 weeks, I'm fine with that. And if the Supreme Court wants to uphold it, overturn it, whatever, that's on them. But the way this law is written is dangerous, not to abortion rights, because I don't really think it's going to catch on that much as far as abortion rights go, because I think most states don't really have much of a problem with abortion, whether you like it or not. I personally think people that are pro-choice and people that are anti-choice or pro-abortion and people that are anti-abortion should all come together and say, let's realize that we all don't want any abortions to happen. Let's come together and say, how do we stop from even being a thing to where no one ever even thinks about it anymore, much less has to have a law against it. Let's talk about preventing unwanted pregnancies. Let's talking about making sure people who do have a child that don't want to keep it, they are well connected into adoption systems, etc. Hell, if you prevented most unwanted pregnancies, there'd be people waiting in line 1,000 long to adopt a baby. So if someone decided, yeah, I got pregnant accidentally, but I don't want to keep it, well, there's 1,000 people in line to give it a great life. So if we just dealt with prevention, education, resources, etc., I think we could obliterate abortion. Unfortunately, both sides, the political parties on both sides have found a way to profit greatly over the battle, that they would not profit over the solution. So it's going to be an issue for a long time. But the way they're going about trying to deal with it in Texas is not the way to let it stand. Because like I said, how long will it be till states like California, Virginia, even places like Virginia, Nevada, Colorado, it's going to catch on pretty quick. And it might not just be guns. Well, if the state says, hey, if you speak out against the state and your neighbor doesn't like it, they can file a suit against you, maybe charge you with treason or being a commie or whatever. If they don't like your lifestyle, maybe they can sue you for your sexual preferences, or maybe they found out you had sex outside of marriage and they're Christian, so they're going to file a lawsuit against you, and the state's going to make it to where they can do that. We're going to give them legal standing to do that through a law. No one wants that. That is one of the most un-American things I've ever heard. And that is what is happening in Texas right now. We can't let this stand. Because this isn't about what we feel about abortion. I don't think anybody, I have never been able to find someone that has been willing to say yes when I'm saying, hey, do you think abortion's a good thing and people should be getting them? They're always like, no, of course not. Well, the very fact that you say, well, no, of course not, so quickly means you realize it's a horrible thing, and it's a horrible thing that anyone ever has to make that decision. So let's get busy on making sure people don't have to make that decision. But like I said, there's too much political money and power invested in the argument right now. But like I was saying, however Texas wants to deal with abortion, it should be dealt with. Like I said, we should be working hard to where there's never an abortion again in this country unless it's an absolute medical emergency. And heck, maybe we should start working on better prenatal care and better techniques for things like this, to where even that doesn't become a problem in the future if we did a little advancement, a little studying, a little research. I'm not a doctor, but we're always progressing, so let's bring that down. If we could bring infant mortality down to where it's next to nothing, I think we're doing good. And we've gotten most of the way there. From what it used to be, like if this was high and this was zero, we went from here to here. Now we just got to go the rest of the way. Getting off topic here, but the way they're going about it, that's the problem in Texas. It's not about what they're trying to achieve. It's the way they're going about it. That can't stand, because if that stands scrutiny, we're in for a lot of trouble in the near future. If we give the states the right to violate your rights, just because they can say, we're not the ones putting the knife to their throats, it's individuals doing it. If we allow that to stand as a defense against an unconstitutional law, we're screwed. So I'm not asking you to change your opinions on abortion at all. If you're as anti-abortion as you can be, you're not going to get any flack from me about it. I can understand it 100%. I hope that we never had another abortion in this country, period. But this isn't the way to go about it, because this is dangerous. These politicians and lawyers in Texas were being very clever and doing something that is not that complex, because if you research this, it's something that states have thought about and known about for many years, but they've all said, no, we're not going to do this because this really throws the Constitution on the fire, potentially. But some short-sighted people in Texas decided it's worth it for some short-term political gain. But it's not. It's not worth it. Fight abortion any way you want, but do not let this law stand. We have to come together as a gun community and say, hey, we get what you're trying to do and we support you, but this ain't the way to do it, because not only are you putting at risk other people's rights, whether we agree with them or not, we're putting at risk our constitutional rights, rights that everyone should agree on. We're giving the state too much power when it can give power to too few people who, for whatever reason, because of their religion, their personal morals, their whatever, don't like what you're doing. If they can have standing and state backing to take you to court and ruin you, that ain't a good thing. So like I said, if you believe in freedom, you believe in the Constitution, you don't have to believe in abortion. But you still have to oppose this law because it's just far too dangerous. All right, everybody, with that being said, I want to move on to gun talk. And tonight we want to talk about a hypothetical. We're going to get all wild and crazy and all psychedelic here for you. Because in our live chat tonight, in our podcast, someone asked the question of, if John Browning was designing his guns today, the high power, the 1911, with modern machinery, would he have designed them differently? Which kind of led to a question of, well, what if they had just never existed? What if he had never created them at that point in time, but he was going to create them now? But back in the day, what took over as the main design, what came around first, was like a striker-fired all-metal gun, like a car. What if that came out before 1911s, before the Browning high power? Would you even be able to make a 1911 today? Would you be able to sell that to someone as a viable gun? I thought that was really interesting. And to be honest, I love 1911s. I'm not slamming them in any way. But if John Moses Browning was a contemporary person today, 1911s had never existed. Like I said, striker-fired all-steel guns had been the first guns, and now we were pretty much where we are now with polymer striker-fired guns, etc. I think the market would be a lot different. I don't think you could sell a 1911. Because basically what you'd have to go in and say, hey, I got this great idea for a gun. Now, it's pretty heavy, but it makes up for it by being low capacity. But it has a really great trigger. But it's got this weird safety on the grip that, you got to push that in first before the trigger will even work. And also, there's a manual safety you have to engage and disengage every time you want to use it. So, a lot of levers and push buttons and things. But here's another thing about it. It's also going to make people extremely uncomfortable because it's got this weird hammer-fired design that is spring-loaded, and you keep that hammer back cocked at all times. And you just keep that safety on, and you trust that safety so that you don't blow your own balls off or whatever. I just don't think you could sell it today. I don't think it would be a viable gun in this market. Low capacity. I'm not going to ding it on caliber because it would be, 10 millimeter today, whatever you wanted to make it, just like we can get them now. So capacity wouldn't be a downside to it, but everything else, I just don't think you could sell. Like I say, the heavy build, the safety, the grip safety, the low capacity, just all these things, the carrying it cocked and locked. I just don't think you'd be able to sell it to people who had grown up on striker fireds. So I personally don't think you could sell it. I think some other people might disagree. I think one thing we did all agree on, though, that is if we had developed like 9mm striker fireds back in the day instead of 1911s, high powers, etc., we would all either be speaking German or Japanese, because there's no way we could have fucking won wars if we were just shooting 9mm, or we would be slaves to giant tentacle people from space because they looked at our planet and went, they're carrying 9mm? Well, they'll be easy to conquer. I mean, we've got pointy sticks and boards with nails in it. We'll take them over quickly. Their puny caliber's no match for our inferior technology. We would be doomed. But that aside, say John Browning is a contemporary and he's making a new gun under our Japanese or German rulers or our space tentacled rulers, little space octopuses. Just don't think you could sell the idea of a 1911. If someone out there can think of a reason why it would still sell today, let me know. Be the defender of the 1911. But like I say, it's a design that revolutionized the world. And without it, you probably would have never had Berettas. You would have never had the Sig P210, so you probably would have never had any of the Sig line. You probably would have never had CZs, all these things that came up on hammer-fired platforms. But a lot of those guns, I think you could still sell because higher capacity, blah, blah, blah. But the 1911, like the granddaddy of them all, I just don't think you could sell it today. I think it would be, like trying to, sell stone wheels to people who already have cars. You know what I mean? So I don't think it'd be possible. What do you think? Do you agree with me or do you disagree? All right, everybody, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you come back again on Monday because we don't do shows on weekends. Until then, remember, we are doing the Veterans Day giveaway. Just go over to tympistolproject.com. There will be a section on the page about halfway down where it says nominate a veteran. Fill out that information, hit submit. That will nominate whoever you're nominating. Any veteran you want to nominate that you think deserves an extra thank you this Veterans Day by winning an AR-15 put together by Storm & Norman Gunworks and donated by Storm & Norman Gunworks. If you think you know someone, a veteran who deserves to win it, like I said, go ahead and nominate them. And then wait till Veterans Day and we'll see if they win. And with that being said, I just want to sign off tonight by saying, remember, always carry and stay safe until I see you again. Damn it, I am a grown-ass man.